are Canadians faring with their mental health? Maybe I'll start with you, Rebecca.
That's really is an interesting picture. What we're seeing is, about a year ago, about 66% of Canadians said that they weren't in very good mental health, which was an increase from 47% pre-pandemic. And now the latest data that we've had is almost 80% of Canadians feel that their mental health is worse off than it was pre-pandemic. So people throughout these past 2 years have really been struggling. Now, we're seeing some positive indications, but on the whole, the pandemic, and then you have, people feeling hopeful, and then they hear things like Omicron, and then they get concerned again. And so this, will we ever get out of it, is concerning, but certainly there is some progress and that people are feeling more hopeful.
Dr. Lau, what are you seeing with your practice and in your work?
Yeah, well, I agree with Ms. Shields. There has been, the survey data shows from 2020 that people are experiencing more stress and anxiety, for sure. That's clear. It didn't necessarily translate into increased suicides in across the world in studies in the last 2 years. That is the surprising thing. I think there have been some discussion about our psychological immunity, as it were, to face these kinds of stresses. I think people, for sure, when asked with these subjective surveys, are under a lot more stress. Mm-hmm. And the uncertainty from the beginning was the biggest part of it. We didn't know when it was going to end. We didn't know what we were facing. I think now with each of these things, when we have rising case numbers, at least before, when we didn't know, it was a lot harder. At least we sort of have a sense of what to expect. So there is less of an impact, but it's moving into a kind of like a chronic phase now. We're sort of chronically feel uneasy, and that is the problem with I mean, as one of my friends said, this is not how they wanted to learn the Greek alphabet.
My goodness, interesting and well said. But what you said was before that, it was interesting that this is almost like the new normal. This is, they're chronically feeling uneasy. It's a chronic situation. And I think the 80% number is quite shocking to me, because I figured most people would see now, okay, we're probably not getting out of this anytime soon. So this is, as they say, the new normal, and we kind of have to adapt. It's still stressful. We still have anxiety, but this is kind of what we're going to be facing for the while. Are people becoming more resilient, Rebecca?
I think people are amazingly resilient. However, I think that we have to understand that stress can be like a little takes its toll over time. And so we all have been learning throughout the pandemic about how to do some positive coping mechanisms. But one of the challenges is that another thing might cause more of an exaggerated reaction than we had in the past. We saw an increase in binge drinking. We saw an increase in substance use, in all of those things. And then those things sort of take a toll over time.